Most men don't fail because they are unattractive. They fail because they try too hard to be liked. They chase attention. They explain themselves. They seek reassurance, and without realizing it, they destroy the very thing they want most desire. In this video, we will solve one problem: why attraction dies when you pursue it, and how desire awakens when you don't. This is not about tricks. This is about power, perception, and psychological gravity. Let us begin with a truth most men resist, because it shatters the fantasy they were taught to believe. Desire does not respond to effort. It does not awaken through persuasion, explanation, or emotional labor. Desire is not something you ask for, negotiate for, or earn through good behavior. Desire is something that awakens on its own when the right psychological conditions are present. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed that people do not follow rulers because they are kind, transparent, or endlessly accommodating. They follow because something about the ruler's presence alters their internal state. The same principle governs attraction. A woman does not feel desire because a man wants her. She feels desire when being near him changes how she feels about herself, about uncertainty, about possibility. Most men make a fatal mistake. They believe desire grows with proximity. They believe more attention, more availability will deepen attraction. In reality, the opposite often happens. Desire withers under certainty. The moment a man reveals that his emotional world revolves around a woman's approval, the tension dissolves. The mystery collapses. The chase ends before it even begins. This is why pleading never works. Explaining never works. Over-communicating never works. These behaviors are not signs of devotion. They are signals of need. And need is not attractive because it places the woman in a position of power without cost. When power is given freely, it is rarely valued. Desire is evoked through emotional contrast, through moments of presence followed by space, through interest that is real but not desperate, through attention that is offered, not poured. When a man can step forward and step back without anxiety, he introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty forces the mind to engage. The human brain is wired to pursue what it cannot fully predict. What is guaranteed is taken for granted. What is earned without effort feels weightless. Desire needs friction. It needs resistance, not cruelty, not coldness, but restraint. When you ask for desire, you expose yourself as dependent on the outcome. You hand over psychological leverage. You reveal that your sense of worth is negotiable. In that moment, attraction does not rise. It reorganizes itself away from you. But when desire is evoked, something different happens. The woman begins to feel before she decides. She notices shifts in her emotions she cannot immediately explain. She feels more present around you, more alert, more aware of silence. She starts to wonder why your attention feels different from others. Why it doesn't overwhelm her, yet doesn't disappear either. Evocation works because it respects autonomy. Desire cannot exist where pressure lives. Pressure suffocates attraction. Evocation allows desire to feel self-generated. And what the mind believes it created, it protects. This is why restraint is power, not because it manipulates, but because it allows space for imagination. When you do not immediately fill every silence, her mind fills it for you. When you do not chase every moment of validation, your absence gains weight. When you do not explain yourself excessively, your presence becomes something to interpret rather than consume. Men often confuse evoking desire with playing games. This is a misunderstanding. Games are reactive. Evocation is grounded. It comes from self-sufficiency. A man who evokes desire is not withholding out of fear. He is simply not overinvested in outcomes he cannot control. He does not perform for approval. He does not bargain for affection. He does not rush emotional intimacy as if it were a finish line. He allows desire to emerge naturally by maintaining his center. The paradox is this: the less you try to awaken desire, the more room you give it to awaken itself. The more you chase it, the faster it retreats. Desire does not want to be hunted. It wants to be discovered. This is why men who are calm in uncertainty feel magnetic. Why men who can lose without collapsing feel powerful. Why men who do not fear silence command attention without effort. Desire is not logical. It does not follow moral arguments or emotional spreadsheets. It follows tension, presence, and polarity. It awakens when a woman feels that being near you changes her internal weather, not because you asked her to feel something, but because something in you made it inevitable. Power does not announce itself loudly. It does not argue, explain, or defend its existence. Power is felt in silence and steadiness, in the man who remains unchanged while the emotional temperature around him rises. Emotional control is the foundation of all psychological authority, and without it, desire has nowhere to anchor itself. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that the ruler who reacts emotionally is already defeated. The moment a leader becomes visibly shaken by opposition, he hands his enemies the map to his weaknesses. The same law applies in attraction. The man whose emotions are easily disrupted communicates instability, and instability dissolves desire faster than rejection ever could. Most men believe attraction is built through expression. They think showing how much they care will deepen connection. They think emotional transparency equals strength, but emotional control is not emotional suppression, and it is not emotional absence. It is the ability to experience emotion without becoming governed by it. When a woman pulls back, tests boundaries, delays responses, or shifts tone, she is not only reacting to the man, she is observing him. She is unconsciously asking one question: does this man remain centered when the ground beneath him moves? If he reacts with anxiety, chasing, irritation, or over-explanation, he reveals that his emotional balance depends on her behavior. In that moment, power shifts. Desire does not grow where emotional dependence is exposed. It retreats, not out of malice, but out of instinct. Emotional control creates safety without submission. It communicates that a man is self-regulated, internally governed, and not at the mercy of external validation. This is deeply attractive because it signals competence. The human nervous system is drawn to stability, especially in moments of uncertainty. A man who controls his emotions does not rush to fill silence. He does not panic when energy changes. He does not seek immediate reassurance. He allows space without interpreting it as threat. This calm presence alters the emotional dynamic in the room. It slows the interaction. It forces awareness. It creates contrast against chaos. Desire is not stimulated by emotional outbursts. It is stimulated by emotional mastery. When a man can hold his frame while tension exists, he becomes the emotional reference point. Others unconsciously align to him. His reactions become cues. His stillness becomes gravity. This is why non-reactivity feels powerful, not because it is cold, but because it is selective. The man who reacts to everything appears controlled by everything. The man who chooses when to respond appears in control of himself, and self-control is the precursor to influence. Many men confuse emotional control with indifference. Indifference is disengagement. Emotional control is presence without volatility. It is caring without clinging. It is interest without attachment to outcome. This distinction is crucial. When a man remains composed under emotional pressure, a woman begins to feel something shift. Her nervous system registers him as grounded. Her subconscious recognizes that he does not need her approval to remain whole. This creates polarity, and polarity is essential for desire. Power does not demand attention. It attracts it. Emotional control does not suppress feeling. It refines expression. It removes desperation from affection and urgency from connection. It allows desire to breathe. Think carefully about moments when attraction collapses. It is rarely caused by a single mistake. It is caused by emotional leakage, by reactions that reveal insecurity, by behaviors that say, without words, that losing her would destabilize the man's identity. The man who has emotional control can lose without collapsing. He can be challenged without becoming defensive. He can be desired without becoming needy. This makes him unpredictable in the right way, not a run shaken. In Machiavellian terms, this is internal sovereignty. The ruler who governs himself does not fear rebellion, because he is not ruled by impulse. The man who governs his emotions does not fear withdrawal, because his center remains intact. This is why emotional control feels dominant, not because it overpowers others, but because it refuses to be overpowered. It communicates that the man's internal world is stable, ordered, and self-directed. Desire responds to this because desire seeks strength, not loud strength, not performative strength, but quiet strength, the kind that does not react to every provocation, the kind that allows tension to exist without rushing to resolve it, the kind that stays grounded while others fluctuate. When emotional control is present, attraction does not need persuasion. It unfolds naturally. The woman begins to mirror the calm. She invests more emotionally. She tests less because stability has been established. She feels drawn not to words, but to presence. And presence is power held in silence, expressed through restraint, maintained through self-mastery, felt through composure, and sensed long before it is ever understood consciously. Mystery is not an act. It is a consequence of depth combined with restraint. It is what remains when a man does not rush to explain himself, does not expose his intentions prematurely, and does not narrate his inner world for validation. Mystery is the psychological space that invites curiosity, and curiosity is the engine of desire. Machiavelli understood that visibility without control weakens authority. A ruler who reveals every plan removes suspense, and suspense is what keeps others attentive. The same law governs attraction. When a man becomes entirely readable, entirely predictable, the mind disengages. There is nothing left to explore. Most men believe mystery means silence or emotional unavailability. This is a misunderstanding. Silence alone is empty. True mystery is presence combined with selectivity. It is saying enough to create interest, but not so much that nothing remains unanswered. It is allowing pauses to exist without anxiety. It is letting moments breathe instead of filling them with reassurance. The human mind is wired to resolve uncertainty. When something feels unfinished, attention returns to it again and again. Mystery activates this loop. A woman begins to think about the man not because he demands space in her thoughts, but because her mind seeks closure that he has not provided. When a man explains too much, he collapses this loop. When he overshares his feelings, his plans, his fears, and his intentions all at once, he removes tension. Emotional transparency without timing feels safe, but safety without tension does not produce desire. Desire requires distance between knowing and discovering. Mystery creates psychological gravity because it resists consumption. The man is experienced gradually, not downloaded in one conversation. Each interaction reveals something, but never everything. This pacing creates momentum. The interaction feels alive, not settled. A mysterious man is not evasive. He is grounded enough to let questions remain unanswered. He does not rush to define the connection. He does not seek to label every emotion. He allows ambiguity to exist without trying to control how it is interpreted. This unsettles the predictable patterns most people are used to. When a woman cannot immediately categorize a man, her attention sharpens. She listens more closely. She observes more carefully. She becomes invested in understanding him, and investment deepens attachment. Mystery also signals confidence. A man who is comfortable being partially unknown does not fear misinterpretation. He does not chase clarity at the expense of intrigue. He trusts that his presence is enough to sustain interest without constant explanation. When mystery is present, silence becomes meaningful instead of awkward. Space becomes charged instead of empty. Absence gains weight instead of causing panic. This changes the emotional texture of interaction. Every moment carries potential. Predictability kills tension. Mystery preserves it. The man who always responds the same way, always reveals the same emotional availability, always explains himself immediately, becomes mentally flat. There is no elevation, no contrast, no pull. But when a man allows parts of himself to remain unspoken, not hidden out of fear but protected by self-respect, he becomes dimensional. He feels deeper than he appears. And depth is magnetic. Mystery also prevents overinvestment too early. When a man reveals everything at once, he often does so to accelerate closeness. But accelerated closeness lacks foundation. It creates intensity without structure, which eventually collapses. Mystery slows the pace, allowing attraction to mature instead of spike and burn out. This is why men who speak less but with intention are often remembered longer. Their words land with weight. Their pauses invite attention. Their presence lingers after they leave because the experience feels incomplete. Desire grows in the gaps, in what is hinted but not confirmed, in what is felt but not explained. Mystery is not manipulation, it is restraint aligned with self-possession. The man who embodies mystery does not perform it. He lives a life rich enough that it cannot be summarized quickly. He has inner worlds that do not require immediate access. He shares selectively, not strategically, but naturally. When a woman senses this, she leans forward psychologically. She wants to understand. She wants to be closer. Not because she is pulled by words, but because something about the man remains just out of reach, creating a gravity that draws her inward, keeps her attention engaged, and turns presence into a question her mind keeps returning to without resolution. Purpose is not ambition alone. It is direction combined with discipline. It is the invisible force that pulls a man forward regardless of who follows him. And nothing awakens desire more reliably than a man who is moving with intent rather than waiting to be chosen. Niccolò Machiavelli observed that men follow leaders who appear destined for motion. A ruler without vision becomes reactive, ruled by circumstance instead of shaping it. The same psychological law governs attraction. A man without purpose unconsciously seeks a woman to become his center. A man with purpose invites a woman into a life that already has momentum. Desire does not respond to need, it responds to trajectory. When a man's energy is focused outward, toward creation, mastery, or progress, he emits a sense of inevitability. He feels as though he is going somewhere, with or without permission. This creates psychological polarity. The woman does not feel responsible for his happiness. She feels curious about his direction. Most men believe desire is built by making a woman feel important. But importance without context becomes burden. When a man places a woman at the center of his emotional universe, he quietly communicates emptiness. His life appears incomplete without her presence. This does not feel flattering for long. It feels heavy. Purpose removes that weight. It signals that the man's identity is self-generated. His days have structure. His energy has direction. His time is not endlessly available because it is invested elsewhere. This scarcity is not artificial. It is a byproduct of commitment to something larger than attraction. A man with purpose does not rush intimacy. He does not cling to attention. He does not sacrifice his rhythm to maintain connection. This steadiness communicates value without declaration. It tells the woman that being close to him is optional, not required for his stability. Desire grows when a woman feels she is choosing a man, not rescuing him. Purpose makes that choice meaningful. It frames the connection as an addition, not a foundation. The man is already standing. She is not holding him up. Purpose also creates authority, not dominance over others, but command over self. The man knows where he is going, even if the destination is not fully visible. This certainty anchors interaction. Conversations feel grounded. Decisions feel intentional. Presence feels solid. When a man lacks purpose, his attention becomes restless. He checks for signals constantly. He adjusts himself to fit expectations. He negotiates his identity in exchange for approval. This volatility erodes desire because it exposes instability. Purpose eliminates this negotiation. The man does not need to be validated because his direction validates him. He does not perform confidence. He derives it from progress. He does not seek permission to exist. He exists in motion. This is why men deeply immersed in their craft, mission, or discipline often attract without trying. Their focus removes them from the marketplace of approval. They are not scanning for reactions. They are building something. This detachment creates allure. A woman senses when a man's life is full, not busy but full of intention, full of responsibility, full of forward movement. This fullness creates space for desire because it removes pressure. She is not expected to complete him. She is invited to witness him. Purpose also protects attraction over time. When challenges arise, the man does not collapse into emotional dependence. He returns to his center. His purpose stabilizes him. This resilience deepens respect, and respect sustains desire. Desire is not sustained by words or gestures alone. It is sustained by the feeling that the man is becoming more of himself over time. Purpose ensures growth. Growth ensures intrigue. Intrigue ensures continued attraction. A man without purpose waits. A man with purpose moves, and movement creates wind. It pulls others into its current. The woman does not feel chased. She feels drawn. Purpose is not declared. It is demonstrated. It shows up in how a man spends his time, how he handles obstacles, how he prioritizes his energy. These signals are read instinctively, long before conscious thought intervenes. When purpose is present, desire does not need to be provoked. It emerges naturally, responding to direction, discipline, and forward momentum, attaching itself to the man not because he asked for it, but because his path made standing beside him feel like stepping into motion rather than standing still. Conclusion. Everything you have heard comes down to one ruthless truth about human nature. Desire does not obey morality, effort, or intention. It obeys power, perception, and inner order. Niccolo Machiavelli never taught men how to be loved. He taught them how to be respected, feared, and followed, because he understood that emotions move after power is felt, not before. Attraction follows the same law. When you stop asking to be chosen, you change the entire game. When you stop reacting emotionally, you take back control. When you stop explaining yourself, mystery begins to work on your behalf. When your life moves forward with purpose, desire no longer needs persuasion. This is not about domination. It is not about manipulation. It is about self-mastery. The man who governs himself becomes impossible to ignore. His calm unsettles. His restraint provokes curiosity. His direction creates gravity. Women do not feel pressured around him. They feel pulled. Remember this clearly: desire is never awakened by force. It awakens when a woman senses that standing near you places her closer to strength, stability, and momentum. Become that man, and attraction will not be something you chase. It will be something that finds you.